I'd like to call for a motion to appoint Treasurer Slavens as our temporary clerk for this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion as stated, say aye. Aye. Madam Treasurer Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Anthony?
Present.
Trustee Foster? Good evening. Trustee Hudak, Graham Hudak, sorry, Henry. Let the record show Clerk Segris is not here tonight, and Treasurer Slavens is here. Trustee Snyderman?
Hi, everyone.
And, I'm sorry, Supervisor Williams?
Hello, good evening. Call for a motion to adopt the agenda with one slight amendment. The amendment is to delete item G4, which was an amendment for Bricko excavating for replacement of 2,220 feet of water main on Michigan Avenue, which is now being deleted from the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
In favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Carries. We have one set of minutes that we need approval for. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes of September 12th, 2017?
Move we approve the minutes of, oh, I see two.
COVID-19.
Oh, September 12th, 2017.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Carries. Okay, there was only one set of minutes.
There's a study session
Study session.
minutes,
COVID-19.
19th.
Look at that. There was an amendment after that was printed. Very
Tried to
good.
confuse me.
No, sir. You are absolutely correct. Mr. Snyderman, if you'd present a motion to approve the 19th.
I move we approve the minutes of the 19th as well.
Second.
In favor of the motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Now would be the time in our program for non-agenda items. If there are any citizens would like to speak this evening, now would be the time to do that. If you're here to speak on an item that's on the agenda, just raise your hand and let us know when that agenda item comes up, and we'll have it addressed. Are there any citizens' non-agenda items? Seeing none, call for a motion, Madam Treasurer, for payment of the bills.
Mr. Supervisor, I make a motion that we pay the bills.
Second.
In favor of paying the bills again this month, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Now we have need a motion to open a public hearing.
Mr. Supervisor, I motion to open the public hearing at 7:04 to consider the request for a new tavern license with the addition of an off-premise SDM license for Genova Pizzeria LLC at 42911 Ford Road, Canton, Michigan, 48187, Canton Township, Wayne County.
Second.
Summary, the clerk's office received the application for a new tavern license from Genova. This would be a quota license. We currently have 4 available quota licenses. 3, as one is tied to a PDD amendment in Uptown over at Cherry Hill Village, which will not expire until 2020. Mr. Younes is the applicant. I don't see him in the audience this evening. He has applied for a new on-premise tavern license, SDM, Specially Designated Merchant, license through the State of Michigan Liquor Control Commission. The state requires the local government approval of Form LCC 106 in order for him to proceed. Are there any board comments or questions? Yes, Steve?
I would just say that I've been going to this establishment for many years, and I know Mr. Younes, and he's just from going to his restaurant, and he's a good businessman in our community.
I would add also that there was a resident, somebody who was concerned with regard to Genova's commitment in terms of longevity and at the current location. And I had the opportunity to speak to Mr. Younes, and he confirmed that he has a 5+5 agreement. So he's in the 4th year of his current agreement, so he'll be, he believes, locked in for another 6 years in that site. So
Is the concern that he would be able to take the liquor license somewhere
yeah,
else?
well, it's once he receives it, it is his property. It
I-
stays with the.
Anywhere in the state, or, oh, okay.
Comments, questions, public comment? Seeing none, could we close
Okay.
the hearing? Or
Uh,
do
Miss-
we vote, then close?
Yeah, we're going to close it, yep. So, Mr. Supervisor, I motion to close the public hearing at 7:06 to consider the request for the new tavern license with the addition of an off-premise SDM license for Genova Pizzeria LLC at 42911 Ford Road, Canton, Michigan, Canton Township, Wayne County.
Second.
All those in favor of closing the public hearing, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We
And-
have another motion.
Yep,
please.
and I have a motion to approve the request for the local government approval for the new tavern license with addition of the off-premise SDM license for Genova Pizzeria at 42911 Ford Road, Canton, Michigan, 48187. That's Canton Township, Wayne County.
Second?
In favor of the motion, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We have one item on the consent calendar this evening.
Consent item 1, resolution supporting Manufacturing Day in Canton Township.
Aye. Oh. I move,
Yeah.
or I move that we approve the consent calendar. And we need a second
Second.
for that. There you go.
Seconds. Those in favor to approve the consent calendar, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G1, Jenna,
Okay.
along here. G1 is approve IT services, Plant Moran, phone RFP, design and selection assistance for the replacement of the township's phone system.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to waive the purchasing policy and approve the purchase of services proposed by Plant Moran in the amount not to exceed $17,500 to assist Canton Township in the systems design and request for proposal development and vendor selection of the township's telecommunication upgrade project.
So moved.
Good. In summary, we do have with us this evening Mr. Joe Kosinski representing the IT area. He's the manager of our IT for Canton Township, and if anyone has any questions for him, he's here to get us through this item. In summary, the IT Services Department of Township has budgeted in its 2017 fiscal year to replace the aging telecommunications systems serving the township for the past 14 years.
Sir, you just missed it.
Mark, you're all set, so you're all set. Yes, sir.
Extra pepperoni on the next one.
No,
you.
sir. I shared with them our conversation, and they were satisfied, so thank you.
Eh,
Okay. It's going well. Good night.
He gets triple? I want quadruple.
Okay, for 6 points, where was I? Okay, the township seeks to partner with a consultant which can display proven successful track record of creating, publishing, submittal review, respondent selection of such services to execute the larger overall telecommunications upgrade request for proposal and vendor selection analysis. While IT staff are highly skilled in the numerous technologies deployed by the various departments, the ability to flawlessly execute all aspects of this type of project to replace the township's phone system is not a skill set current IT maintains. IT Services seeks to utilize a portion of the funding budgeted for a new phone system to contract with Plant Moran to execute all aspects of the request for proposal and vendor selection, management portions of the RFP process of the larger telecommunications upgrade project. And that being said, I'll also add that when Director Trumbull first brought this to me, she had a preliminary quotation from the vendor Plant Moran, and I choked on it, and I said, that's totally unacceptable, go out and get bids, which she did. And it turns out that Plant Moran's numbers were fantastic, so here we are tonight. Are there any board questions or comments?
That was my question. Yeah, and that's good. You answered it. Thank you.
None, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G2. Consider first reading of the amendment of Appendix A zoning code of ordinances regarding Wayland Greenleaf Trust conditional rezoning.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to introduce and hold on the first reading of the proposed amendment to Appendix A, zoning of the Code of Ordinance for the request to conditionally rezone the subject tax parcel listed in our packet from light industrial to R6, single-family attached residential, subject to the statement of conditions and concept plan.
Good. I see we do. Okay, thank you, Steve. In the audience, we do have Mr. Berry from Livonia Builders, who is the applicant, and he's proposing to conditionally rezone the subject property from L1 light industrial to R6 single-family attached residential district, subject to the attached statement of conditions and conceptual plan, which is part of your board packet. The Planning Commission has reviewed some proposed changes to the future land use map as part of the 5-year comprehensive plan update and has authorized proceeding with an amendment which would change the future land use designation from light industrial to medium-high density residential. The proposed rezoning would limit the number of units to 90, well under the 120, which would be permitted under the standard R6 zoning. A 25-foot natural buffer would be maintained along the adjacent Holiday Park subdivision, with additional trees planted to fill gaps between existing tree cover. A multi-purpose path would be constructed through the project with connection to the I-275 bike trail along the north side of Coppernick Road. Staff is recommending approval. Are there any board comments, questions?
I was going to ask about the planning commission, so I didn't know if Anne Marie was going to.
It can go either way. Are there residents' comments at this time? Is there? Yes, please, come on up. If you please, approach the podium. If you would be so kind, share us your name and address.
And then if you can also, if you'd be so kind as to fill one of these out so we have your name and correct spelling. Thank you so much.
My name is Gail Owens. My address is 8416 Orhan. I live in Holiday Park. I realize, you know, the board is already, the zoning has already made the approval, but I would just like to bring up the fact there's 27 businesses back in that area, and there's only one way in and out. And I have questions whether any of those, and 8 of those are like big warehouses. And so the number of employees, I don't have a clue. But are any of those warehouses have operations where there's a possible hazmat situation? Like do they do with chemicals or anything like that? And if so, do we have, the police and fire department have a hazmat plan for, you know, if that were to happen? And then with, like I said, there's only one road in and out from that area. So that's a concern that I have, is if something, whether it gets built for residential or whether it gets built for industrial, there's 27 businesses back there, and that's a concern that I have. And I realize this is the last northeast property that's open, but Canton is a big area. And, you know, I mean, to squeeze another. But I also wanted to bring up that when the for sale sign is still up on the property. And so I called the real estate and I asked, is this property still for sale or has it been sold? And I was told that the sale is pending and there has not been a closing yet. So I'm just questioning how, I don't know how, you know, they're going ahead with, they don't have, you know, ownership of the property yet. I don't know how that works.
We will get you answers for both questions. Very good. Like the first one is an easy one for me because I used to be one of those properties over on Rhonda Drive, around the corner, and absolutely we had to file all chemicals used in the facility with the Canton Police Department and Fire Department. So in the event of an emergency or of a fire, which we, by the way, had one about every 6 months, we'd light up the roof back in the 80s. And they were able to respond and contain. But I'll let Josh expand on that.
Yeah, that all falls under the Firefighter Right to Know Act. And so each one of our stations has that information readily available to them. It's also part of our community risk assessment that we do for accreditation. So we have to know the buildings that we're able to respond to. And those are kept in a database. And so is there a plan? Yes, we do have a plan to respond to any building that contains hazardous materials, to contain that, and then notify the Western Wayne County Hazardous Materials Response Team if necessary, if the incident grows beyond our capabilities.
In terms of your second question, it's, I think a lot of people, myself included, if I were to buy a home, I'd want to make sure my home's sold before I have to, the one deal's pending, I want to close one before I move on to the next one. But I don't know, technically, if there's something you want to add to that, Tim?
Well, there's no prohibition from an applicant buying the property before they, as we would say, secure all the entitlements. That is, they get all their various improvements from the local, county, and state governments. But in many cases, the developers, and I trust that's the case here, they have a pending offer to purchase the site from who's ever selling it until such time that they get at least a certain number of preliminary approvals. Sometimes that's right through to the time that they have their final site plan approved. This project still has many steps to get to that point, but it kind of varies depending on the developer and depending on kind of how they conduct their business.
I think we'll move on now to board comments, questions?
I just want to say a couple things. So I think the Livonia Builders did a good job in making a plan, but I just also want to let the board know that, and I think there's a little confusion by the residents. I think they thought when the Planning Commission voted to rezone that it still had to come to the board. So I think they thought it was a done deal, and it's not. And I think also there was probably confusion because it just said Wayland Greenleaf Trust, and many probably didn't know it was a Coppernick. But we're here to vote on the rezoning. The room was full. I mean, it was full of a lot of residents here, and you can even see that they submitted a petition with 118 signatures, and we spent over an hour, almost an hour and a half, listening to residents talk about this. So basically, what happens is the concern is the residents are concerned that removing the brush is going to remove the buffer between Holiday Park and the railroad station. So you're going to have the railroad line there. The railroad line comes from, it crosses Newburgh and Warren, and then it goes to Coppernick, and it stops a lot. And I believe that the federal law has been removed where they could only stand for 2 minutes before, but now they have unlimited time to stand there. And so they say it can back up for hours. So when the trains come through, they blow their whistles, so they say that happens at 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 1 a.m., at all times. They're concerned about the quality of life of new residents that are going to live there. They also say that right now we have issues with our safety getting to it. Right now we have to use Plymouth, I think it is, right, Josh? Plymouth or Westland sometimes has to go there. We call in other areas to service that, because of the train and the traffic that they can't get through. That's what we were told.
Not typically. We're able to navigate around the train, but there have been occurrences on the far northeast corner of the township, depending on whether that train's blocked, where we'll call mutual aid from Plymouth Township. We've worked very closely with CSX and Mr. Trott's office to try to resolve that issue, and to date, we have not had any additional issues with CSX in our response since we had that meeting with them probably a year ago. Okay, then, yeah, if it occurs, somebody needs to let us know so that we can reach back out. We haven't received any complaints since.
When it's blocked, the fire station that's on Warren Road, less than a mile from us, has to go all the way completely all the way up to Plymouth.
That's correct. Yeah. Our Public Safety Dispatch Center at 734-394-5400, and if you press 0, that gets you right into dispatch. And they'll document it, and they have a 1-800 number to CSX that they can call and address. Yeah. Unfortunately, railroads are regulated by the federal government, so we don't have any authority over them.
So they can sit there for ever, basically.
Correct. Correct.
That place, it's a nightmare as it is. There's a traffic study, I don't know if anybody has seen it, so I believe Livonia Builders, you did a traffic study. So when you look at it, it talks about the level of service. There's levels of service from A to F, and A is the best level of service, and F is the worst. F is where you have the biggest delay. And as it stands right now, the existing intersection, I mean, we have F service there, just at that light, at Haggerty Road and Coppernick. So when that train's there, or just that one line of traffic, that's a dirt road, which is another issue. I mean, people are there for hours sometimes, and this level of F service is saying basically delays of up to maybe even 94 minutes. I believe that they had said if they were to go with a residential area rather than an industrial area, it wouldn't be as bad. So if we had industry there, the traffic would be much worse. However, that land has not been used by industry for a long time, and I believe the reason for that is because it's hard to get in and out of it, and that train's there. I think it would be very difficult. I mean, that's just my opinion, that it'd be very difficult to get in. You have that other picture that we have in the packet? Can you put that up? Where it shows the railroad, where is it?
Beautiful.
Yeah, if I could just comment on the traffic study also, kind of one of the positive things, if anything, that came out of the traffic analysis was that there was a recommendation to approach Wayne County to make some modifications to the signal timing at Haggerty and Coppernick, which would bring, as Trustee Graham Hudak had pointed out, the current level of service at that intersection from an F, which is failing, to C, which is considered a more than acceptable level of operation. So that is something positive that came out of the design work that was done on this project. So the county is going, if this moves forward, well, actually, frankly, regardless whether this project would go forward or not, our intent is to contact the county and ask them to make the signal modifications to deal with that afternoon rush hour traffic where it's failing during about a 1-hour period.
Yes, like you said, we should still call that up. Could we pull up the Google map so this is actually easier to see of that area? But there's a site trip generation that talks about if we do, light industrial, they're saying, would add average daily traffic of 803 more vehicles. Apartments would add 669. Either are big numbers.
Okay, hold on. 800 versus 600, so 200 less with.
If
Apartments.
somebody built there, yes, if a light
200
industry.
less with the apartment. Got it.
Right. That's what they're saying. But if, of course, if it stays green, if nobody, because you can see Coppernick is a dirt road, and so that would be the only way in and out, is just Coppernick Road. And that train, see how that train track goes across there? That's where the train backs up for hours. So whether industry hasn't gone there for a while, and if they did, there'd have to be a lot of modifications. Again, that's a dirt road there. That's paved right in front of it.
Coppernick is paved to this point here, just east of Holly Road, and then it transitions to a gravel road as you move further east towards the Holiday Park Preserve here at the end of the road. So the section where they're proposing the development here is an existing paved road.
So when the train is there, where the police and fire have to come from? The other area? If the train is blocking to get to Holiday Park or anything, they'd have to come up that.
Yeah, they have access, I'm just trying to zoom out here, but they have access to this location off of Joy Road in Eccles, in through, what is this, Orrin Road. From, as was mentioned, either from Westland or from the kind of Canton Plymouth side into this area. And that's when the train is blocking here. And of course, the train can also block here. It can block up in Plymouth Township through the city of Plymouth, as everybody knows, and then down at Warren Road here.
Don't they mostly block Coppernick because that's less, they consider that a less traveled area, and they pull the trains there mostly.
Honestly, I don't know why they block where they block.
The issue that CSX,
I think if the resident could go to the podium, because none of the comments are going to be recorded, otherwise,
And ma'am, this is not question and answer period, so
I just meant that they do block all 3 roads. We're still, I will put it on our Facebook page that we are to call the police because
Thank you.
our kids are getting to school late, and I realize you have no control over the trains, but I'm just clarifying that those 3 roads do get blocked. They sit there for hours.
Go ahead, please. Mhm.
Danny Very from Livonia Builders. Good evening, board members. After the last meeting, I have a good friend that works for the railroad. He doesn't work for CSX, he works for the other one, which I'm drawing a blank on the name. I had brought all these concerns to him because I figured I might as well start with somebody that works there, which I'm sure that the township already has. But when he said if a 911 call goes in, the dispatcher can have a direct call to the train master to say, we are going to be coming through this point. If there's a train there, get it out, or don't have any trains come until we call you back after we've been to the thing. You can also let them know if there are certain times of the day, like going to school, going to work, that you prohibit, I shouldn't say prohibit, it's probably not the right word, but ask them not to block that intersection for a 30-minute or one. All this stuff can be worked out with. It just has to come through the local municipality. I can't call them. The residents can't call the train, but the municipality can get behind it and say, these are some legitimate concerns that we have for this intersection, and then go from there and work out a comprehensive program on what we can do with that intersection. Obviously, my concern, it would be no different than theirs. Something will go there. If it's not this, if you guys don't look at it as this is a better use than light industrial, somebody will put something there. And if it's 800 trips through industrial, that's a lot less or a lot worse than 600 trips through residential. So I just wanted to bring that up on the train thing.
Danny, when do you anticipate starting construction?
I would anticipate it'll probably take us a year to get all of our approvals, permitted through the county and everything, and then we'll start right from there.
Sometime in the future, any idea what the price of the units would run?
We're going to have 2 different products, as you saw. We have ranch units on the ends and colonial units in the middle. And we're looking at, they're going to be rentals. They're probably going to be somewhere, they're averaging about $1.15 to $1.17 a square foot, which is, I could go through the whole thing I did with the Planning Commission, but I don't want to bore you. It's below market rates compared to comparable product.
Is there a basement?
The middle units will have basements, the ranch units will not. They'll be on slabs. Okay.
Anne Marie, do you have additional comments?
Yeah, just maybe, Josh, can you talk about the accidents? They did have accident number, it is a high accident area also. I believe the Haggerty intersection. Did you look at this at all? Oh, sorry, okay, well,
I don't have the crash data, but I can tell you that the majority of those accidents are occurring at Ford and Haggerty, and then I-275 and Coppernick, not actually at Coppernick and Haggerty.
Kaepernick, you're saying, they did say something that the changing of the lights would help with the accidents, so it looks like you said, Tim, we do have something that would improve the area. So I just say, the quality of life, I believe, that area wouldn't be enhanced by putting anything there at this time.
My opinion is 180 degrees the opposite of yours. When I look at this project, I see a nice transition from residential into the industrial. And if I was sitting in Holiday Park, would I rather have behind me a driveway industrial facility with 24-hour noise coming and going, or a nice little green space buffer with a ability to access the trailway? To me, it's a fantastic transition piece that's perfect for that location, my opinion.
My question is, why wouldn't industry have built there yet? What is stopping them?
Money?
I mean, is
There
it?
are other sites, who knows why? I don't know what the price is of that property, but that could be an issue too.
That's a very subjective question. I've owned industrial properties, my family has owned industrial properties, and it's a very subjective question that only the individuals that choose to or not to can answer. So it's, the question is so subjective that, yeah.
Just that, you know, Danny, we have a long relationship with your company. You build a good product, you do a good service, the buildings you've built, the homes you built. I don't think anybody's breaking down our door complaining about it, so you must be doing a good job.
Thank you.
It sounds like Pat said, it sounds like an excellent transition between the industrial and the homes that are already there. It seems like an ideal project for that area, why it hasn't been built before. How the hell did you find this place is what I want to know.
You know, the property was priced a lot higher a few years ago.
Yeah.
Don't know the details behind the trust, but my thinking is that there's probably been a death and they just want to get rid of it. And so the numbers on the property make it very conducive to doing what we're doing. And to answer her question earlier, it is under option until we get our, get approval. So that's a pretty normal practice in the industry. But, the other thing too, if Tim, you could go back to the elevation of the product. They look like condos. They don't look like apartments. And that's what we do with all of our rental communities. They are all condos that we just maintain ownership to. So they don't have a feel of an apartment. They have a feel of a home. We don't even call them apartments. We call all of our projects communities because that's how we market them, how we build them, the features that we put in them, you'll never see in apartments. I mean, we tile our showers, we have European glass doors, we have granite. I mean, we put things in that they don't put in because we attract different consumers than traditional apartments do.
We could move the other side of the dais, Summer or Steve,
My question was about access to public safety with the train in the way. So Director Meyer, I believe you answered my question.
I have a few questions. First one being, is it at all possible, by the way, nice to see you, Mr. Mary.
You too.
It's been a while. Is it all possible to connect this roadway of this complex to the one to the north, the apartment complex? I don't know if
I don't want to do that.
you don't want to do that, to be able to let
No.
people get out that way if there is train blockage.
Well,
Know that that's a different product up there?
totally different product. I really don't want to encourage their traffic coming south, as I'm sure
I
the
think they
neighborhood.
would that way, because they're right on Joy Road with a bridge. That was the only thing I was thinking, is that, why go to Kopernik? But it was just a thought that I had. The other question, I guess, is for Director Foss, and if you can zoom out there, I'm looking at it on my computer. You can see the green space that is in there to the south and to the east, and is that all potential development areas, or is some of it protected? Because it's a lot of green space, and I am a bicyclist. I ride the 275 trail. I've noticed that what's in this area right now, most of the trees have been removed already, so.
Well, sorry. Yeah, most of this area is part of the Holiday Nature Preserve.
Okay.
Whoops, sorry. Yeah, most of this area generally in here is all part of the Holiday Nature Preserve. You can see here's the kind of trailhead off of Hicks Road, and then there's another secondary parking area, although it's kind of everybody likes to keep that hush-hush. That's the hidden little kind of nugget that's at the end of Kopernik Road there.
Now
That
I know about
definitely
it.
some of
I'm
the
going
abutting residents take advantage. But-
Is that green space accessible? Are there trails in it, or is
Yep.
it?
There are many walking trails
Okay.
throughout the Holiday Nature Preserve. The Rouge River watershed has been involved for the better part of 30 years with helping protect and preserve some of the work that Bill Craig and he's kind of the keeper of the Holiday Nature Preserve, and the Rouge has been working with Bill and others in the area to protect that area for, like I say, 30 years.
What is unprotected, I guess I should ask? I mean, does it go all the way to the train down there, or?
Pretty much, yep. This is an existing mobile home park. There is a little bit of developable property on the east side of this train track, although this one is pretty constrained.
You mean the west side or the east side?
Sorry, the west side of the tracks between Commerce Drive and the tracks, and then there's another parcel right in here that is still developable also. I think there's a small parcel here that Joe Block owns that may be developable, but a lot of these areas are heavily treed and lots of wetland and kind of woodland constraints.
Will Mr. Neary be required to put money into the tree bank for the trees?
It depends on kind of how he develops the site and how many trees are removed based on their tree survey and basically how much they're going to do, how much development they're going to do on the site. I know that the plan is to preserve kind of that 25-foot buffer along the
Holiday Park?
along the east side of the site generally in here, but maybe Mr. Very wants to comment specifically. I don't know if you've even got that far from a design standpoint yet, but.
Just the layout that we have, we don't want to cut anything down we don't have to. So that's one thing, and then we prefer to put them on our site as long as we have the room for them. So whatever we can't fit in, which I think we'll find room.
It's kind of hard to see exactly on this, on this drawing, but if I zoom in a little tighter, this is that 25-foot buffer that is along here with some additional replacement trees being added to complement the existing tree line that is behind many of the homes.
Is there going to be a wall between the track and the, so there'll be a wall put up?
We're going to put an 8-foot, I'm sorry, Jeff corrected me on that. A 6-foot, I guess, is as high as we can go. Vinyl privacy fence that'll go all the way along that railroad, the whole western property line, the northern property line, and then we're going to return it down 300 feet on the easterly property line. So that little diagonal right there. So there, this, and then all the way down along the, it's about 2,000 linear feet.
Tim, the trail will be on the, not on the track side, it'll be on the, so the trail
My
will-
trail will be in my thing,
On-
but it'll connect to a sidewalk that connects to the bike trail.
But the bike trail, so, okay. so
This is the existing bike trail here, if you follow my mouse kind
Yeah.
of to the north, and then it
So the-
bends. And they're connecting here, and then a sidewalk along the Coppernick frontage. And then, as Mr. Very pointed out, they have their own trail around the condominium, or the apartment complex.
I guess my concern is for the bikers that they won't even be able to see into the park with the wall there, right? Into the complex. I mean, now they have trees that they're driving by, and now they're going to have a wall that they're driving by. I know the complex to the north, which is a different animal, is the wall is on 275. It's not, you can see into the complex. You're not just driving between two walls. And that's my concern. You know what I mean? Right now, you drive, you can see it. If you look back at the map, the trail is in the woods practically.
It'll be similar to the extent that there'll be a wall on one side, but not on the other.
But the wall will be
You have vinyl,
railroad tracks on one side, and you'll see a wall on the other side. Is that correct?
For that little stretch.
yeah, it's only 6 feet tall, this fence. And then on this side, it'll be wide open, just as it is all the way along I-275.
It'll be wide open to the railroad tracks and then 275.
Correct, yep. So this is the highway right here, and this is the railroad tracks in the bottom right corner.
And there is an area between our property line and the trail that does have trees on it.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's not a huge area, as you can see it, but I'm gonna guess it's probably 25 feet, 20
Oh,
feet.
okay. So you'll leave trees
Oh,
there?
yeah, nothing that's outside of, again, I'm gonna reiterate, if I don't have to cut it down for utilities, it's not coming down, as long as it's healthy, obviously.
Last question. Do you think that people are going to want to live along the railroad tracks? What's your thoughts on
You know, here's what I will tell you. I've been building a long time. And I have built along railroad tracks. I have built along freeways. I think the only thing I haven't built along is a landfill. And people
Got one we
buy.
can work with you on, so.
What's that?
We have one we can work with you on.
I don't want to build next to
Okay.
that. So where I was going with this is, I've built along every quote-unquote negative, and those products have always sold. These are lease, people can move in, if they don't like it, they can move out, they're not tied into it, unlike buying a home. I think it's a much easier commitment for someone to lease something and see how it is versus, I'm gonna go ahead and buy it. And, you know, you always have compensating factors too. I'm sure those two buildings that are adjacent to the railroad tracks will lease for a little bit less than the ones that are further east. No different than if we had lots there. The ones along the railroad tracks in 275 would be base lots, and everything else would have a slight premium too. So it's, my father-in-law used to say there's an ass for every seat.
Okay. Thanks.
Any questions, comments? Go ahead, please.
Also, so your company will run it as a property managers and you're only leasing? You aren't selling to owners that will lease it?
No. We will maintain ownership of the entire property. They're they look like condos, but they're technically apartments. So we're not selling any of them.
I mean, it's actually a beautiful site, I just wish it weren't there. It is, it's beautiful. I think the
Thank you.
condos are nice. Quality of life that worries me about, like you said, what the residents said. I mean, this room was packed about what they were saying about the noise.
Well, again, as I stated in there, their houses were built, I'm going to speculate in the 60s and 70s, where they didn't have the soundproofing that we're going to put in these to help deaden it. Is it going to make it go away? No, but it's going to deaden it between the sound bounce on the glass and the foam insulation on the walls, and then being all brick on the first floor. It's going to minimize that tremendously. And it's not, a train isn't a constant like the freeway. Like if you stand there in the freeway, you barely hear the freeway because it's elevated, 30 or 40 feet at this property by the time you get to the freeway, if not more than that. The train, I'm going to speculate and say it comes by 8 to 10 or 12 times a day. So you have that, but it's not a consistent. And if it's coming by 12 times a day, it's probably coming by 7 of those 12 times when everybody's at work or not home. So you might have to deal with 5 to 7 times at a maximum, and I'm truly speculating, I don't know how much, but I know it's a busy track, on how much they'll hear that beep, 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 because the train itself, the tracks don't make the noise nearly as much as obviously the horn. So the sound deadening stuff will eliminate the noise of the track. It won't completely eliminate the horn, but it'll definitely help. Because when, and I said this in the Planning Commission meeting, prior to the meeting, our group met, and we were about where our entrance, well, the old entrance was, so it's closer to where the pond is, right there, standing there having a conversation when 2 trains came by. And as soon as the horn was done beeping, we did not change our volume at all, and we could have our normal conversation outside. And the freeway didn't even impact us at all when we were talking. Part of the reason why we want to put the fence along the train is to take that visual obstruction off. You're not going to hide the train, but it's not a visual thing that they're seeing all the time. So they're only seeing it when it's driving by.
Comment, questions? We have 2 motions here. Those in favor of the first motion as presented, state aye. Aye. Those opposed? Seeing none, motion carries.
Okay, further, I move to table consideration of the amendment for a second reading on October 10th, 2017.
Second.
In favor of the second motion, state aye. Aye. Motion carries. I'm moving on, item G3. Consider final approval of Westchester 3 Planned Development District Agreement and Preliminary Site Plan for Ridge Creek Site Condominiums.
Final approval of the plan development for Westchester 3 and approval of the preliminary site for Ridge Creek Site Condominium, whereas the project sponsor has requested final approval for Westchester 3 plan development and preliminary site plan for Ridge Creek Site Condominium located south of Warren Road and west of Ridge Road on the tax parcel listed in our packet. Whereas Planning Commission voted to recommend final approval for PDD and preliminary approval of the site plan, based on the findings that proposed plan development and preliminary site plan are consistent with the goals and objectives of the comprehensive plan, and whereas the board has reviewed and proposed the final plan development and preliminary site plan and determined the proposal to be consistent with the zoning ordinance regulation and development objectives, subject to the conditions described in the analysis and recommendation attached hereto and made part of, now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Trustees of the Township, Canton Township, Michigan, does hereby grant final approval of Westchester 3 Plan Development and Preliminary Site Plan for Ridge Creek Site Condominium on the tax parcel listed in our packet.
In summary, the property was rezoned to R1 Single Family Residential District in 2016. Singh Development is purchasing the property and proposes to develop a 22-unit, single-family site condominium on 22 acres. A planned development district is proposed in order to cluster the lots to preserve the wooded ravines and other forested areas along the east and southern property boundaries. Almost 47% of the land will be retained in common open space. The housing proposed will be similar to those homes already being constructed in Westchester. The minimum lot size is 13,500 square feet, with lots ranging from 85 to 110 feet in width. The required definite benefits to the community include paving an extended portion of Ridge Road north of Park West Apartment to the entrance of Patriot Park, preservation of natural features and open space, creation of additional value for the units that will back onto the wooded and ravine areas, architectural standards that exceed the ordinance minimums, and provisions of amenities, including decorative mailboxes and street signs. Staff is recommending approval. Are there any board comments or questions? Go ahead, Steve.
Can you explain the comment about Ridge Road? Are we getting something there? I don't.
Yes, if you recall, when this was being negotiated, and when we negotiated the consent judgment for Singh's other project in the area, which is the Park West Apartments, which is underway now, the two provisions were that, A, they would pave their entire frontage along Park West, which is about 1,200 feet, and then another, I think it's 150 to 200 feet north of the Park West site as part of the definite benefit associated with this project, understanding that some of the traffic from this project would also benefit from the use of having a paved ridge road. So Todd Rankin, the Director of Architecture and Planning from Singh, is here, as well as Mr. Priest, who's done some engineering work on the site. And
So this is still up to Patriot Park? It's nothing additional?
correct, there
Oh,
would,
okay.
yeah, this would take it to just past the entrance of Patriot Park. And actually, just before the board meeting tonight, I was out there. It looks like they're gearing up to get started on the road work anytime now, so.
I would just say that I do like the amount of green space that is being preserved in this design. I think we saw it before, I think it was the last board, a similar design, if not the same, when we discussed the rezoning, I think.
My only concern with the property and the development is the lack of access from the charter school to Ridge, which is not going to change. It's the way it is. The state grossly undersized the parking lot for the charter school, and that's created a backup across the street. So you got parents and kids going back and forth every day, and there's nothing we can do with this project to fix that today. But it's still a frustration I have going forward.
Where does it, I'm sorry, Pat, where does it back up? Across from the charter school?
Cross-Ford Road, so they literally are crossing kids,
Oh,
drop off and pick up.
yeah, this is up on Warren, so, yeah.
Other Singh development. Any other comments, questions? Seeing none. Those in favor of the motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item G4. 5. Wow. Consider waiving finance purchasing policy and award a contract to Smith Group JJR for design services for the next phase of the Lower Rouge River Trail and approval of the budget amendment.
And this will be in 2 motions. I move to award the contract to Smith Group JJR for Lower Rouge River Trail Design Services for the amount not to exceed $79,350, and furthermore, to approve the following budget amendments listed in our packet.
In summary,
Support, by the way.
thank you, Steve. In summary, over the past 10 years, Canton Township has constructed and extended multi-use trail systems through the Lower Rouge River Valley between I-275 and Canton Center Road. The next phase of this trail will be easterly connection between I-275 and Hannon Road. Smith Group, JJR, has been the design consultant for the previous stages of the trail, west of I-275. They have completed the conceptual designs for this portion of the path. However, the final design was not initiated while Township applied for grant funding. In 2017, Canton Township received a grant from the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan for $40,000 of design work. On August 29th, Canton Township received a cost proposal for $79,350 from Smith Group JJR to complete the detailed design, including subcontracted geotechnical and traffic consulting services. The revenues to cover the design costs will come from grant funding, supplemented by funds already budgeted in the Water and Sewer Fund. Based on the fact that Smith Group JJR has all the baseline survey and conceptual design work available for this phase, staff is requesting a waiver of the finance purchasing policy on the requirement to formally solicit proposals for these services. Are there any board comments, questions? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, first motion state aye. Aye. Carries. Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to authorize a township supervisor to sign the agreement on behalf of Canton Township.
Second. Sorry.
In favor of the second motion, please state aye.
Aye.
Item G6, consider approval to waive the finance purchasing policy and approve purchase of the server hardware and software from Dell for electronic plan submittal project.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the purchase of the hardware and software necessary for the electronic plan submittal project for the amount of $37,917.55, and further waive the purchase policy requirements for this purchase.
In summary, in conjunction with IT services, we have designed a system to begin receiving building construction plans electronically. Oh, did we get a second?
Summer,
Thank you, Summer.
yeah.
Security concerns about the external customers accessing our internal network led the team to a solution that would place a new server outside the township network for this purpose. The server also requires some software to operate. The total cost of the hardware and software is $37,917 and some change, as priced under the State of Michigan government purchasing contract offered by Dell. Since this pricing is extremely competitive, staff is requesting the board waive the requirement to solicit formal bids. In August 2017, the board approved a budget amendment to the building inspection services budget to cover the anticipated expenses. Are there any questions?
Yeah, our IT director left, right?
Yeah, so
I was just wondering, what are these construction plans we're receiving electronically?
here we go. Tim, maybe you could share.
Cue it up, perfect. So this is a typical set, Faith Baptist Church, which this board approved the site plan for just in the last couple months. This is a typical average commercial or industrial set of drawings. The engineers submit multiple copies of these drawings to us, which get routed physically between all the different departments, require review by the building officials, the fire marshal, et cetera. And our goal with Phase 1 of this project is to be able to begin, starting in January, the receipt of these documents electronically. So one, that fulfills our 24/7, 365 goal in our strategic plan to provide service anytime to a certain group of customers in the community. And two, in the future, we won't actually have to scan these drawings now. So right now, we're doing our back files, scanning about 2,000 projects worth of files. We've done, I think, 20,000 sheets so far under that contract. We have about another 25 or 30,000 more to go. So I'll already be in electronic format when we get it in the future, and it'll save the money, the township money. So while it's a substantial capital outlay today, over a 5-year period, maybe 7-year period, it'll probably see our return on investment by not having to scan those plans in the future.
Thank you.
Absolutely, this is.
Tim, does this apply to contractors who are doing a patio or sidewalk, cement job, or a small job?
Yeah, really kind of geared to the larger projects. So these would be homes and all the commercial and industrial plans. Down the road, and I'm not sure if it'll be 2019 or 2020, but our objective is to expand this, not just, or expand it beyond building into both the planning services and the engineering services area, so that we are entirely electronic. We are one of the maybe 3 or 4 communities in the state that are moving initiatives forward like this right now. East Lansing, the city of Lansing, the state of Michigan, actually, the city of Novi, or a few others that are moving forward with electronic plan submittals. So it's a fairly new thing, but it'll be good for everybody in the long term.
Whole bunch of trees that won't have to be cut down, as well as floor space and maintaining those records. So we're finally, we're leading in this area, so it's a wonderful thing. Questions, comments? Seeing none, those in favor of the motion as presented, please state aye.
Aye.
Let's see, there's one motion to that. Item G7. Okay. Consideration of first reading of ordinance to amend Chapter 46, Article 8, Division 3 of the Canton Code of Ordinances entitled Alcohol Liquor to bring the ordinance into compliance with the recent changes to the law, state law.
Mr. Supervisor, I move to introduce the first reading of an ordinance which amends Chapter 46, Article 8, Division 3.
Second.
Okay, in summary, Public Act 357 of 2016 made a number of changes to the state minor in possession of alcohol statute, known as the MIP. After several changes, it changed the first offense from being a misdemeanor to a state civil infraction. Second and third and beyond offenses are misdemeanors with increasing penalties. Public Act 357 was set to take effect on January 1st, 2018. However, the governor then signed into Public Act 89 of 2017, which further revised the MIP statute to require the court order in case a minor refuses chemical breath tests. The effective date of PA 89, which incorporates the changes of Public Act 357, takes effect on October 10th, 2017. The prosecuting attorneys of Michigan has taken the position that all the changes in both public acts now take effect October 10th, 2017. The township's MIP ordinance was adopted in 2000 and has a number of other outdated provisions that are being corrected at this time. So the punchline is we're just simply making sure our local ordinances align with state law. Are there any board comments? Go ahead.
Question, what is the difference between a misdemeanor and a state civil infraction?
Civil infraction is usually a ticket, like a speeding ticket where there's a fine. Doesn't often require court appearance, where a misdemeanor is actually would go on the record and they require a court appearance and could result in jail time.
No further comment. Those in favor of the motion first motion as presented, state aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr.
Second motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I further move to table for consideration the proposed text amendment to the Code of Ordinance and schedule the second reading on October 10th, 2017.
Second?
Discussion. Those in favor of the second motion as presented, state aye.
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 Motion carries. That concludes our formal agenda for this evening. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comments? Seeing none. Any board comment?
I have a comment. The Canton Township Roads Task Force is having our first official meeting on October the 5th at 6:30 PM in this building. I believe it is in room A, downstairs.
Actually, we made some moves today.
Okay.
We're going to be back in the boardroom, and the reason for that is there were requests to videotape your meetings, and if we were to do it downstairs, we'd have to hire people to work overtime, blah, blah, and it'd be a stationary single camera, and the quality be horrendous, whereas if we do it up here, it's all automated.
Okay,
Good news is you're up here.
okay, thank you.
Seeing no other comment. Staff, the team, Tim?
Study session next week, drains, drain assessments, and all kinds of other things associated with drains. So
Drains.
Wayne County Drain Commissioner, their attorney, and their engineers will be here to talk to us about drains and the drain process.
I am still looking for, we are still looking for 2 more members who have financial skills as well as technical skills to serve on a drain review board,
Board of Determination.
board of determination. So if any of the trustees know of somebody that contains technical skills combined with financial skills,
What kind of technical skills?
You know, I wouldn't say you don't have to be an engineer, but somebody that has some technical understanding of drainage and, properties and assessments, those sorts of things, it's definitely helpful. It could be, it's really about the cost that is going to be passed on to the individuals that are at the Board of Determination hearings and listening to what are sometimes hundreds of people objecting to drainage assessments that are being passed on by the county for improvements to the county drain system.
and the third requirement is they not live on a drain, especially one that's under review.
Correct.
How often would they meet?
It varies. They need one right now because a petition has been filed with Wayne County for the Fellows Creek drain from Mrs. Lamb, who lives at the house on Ford Road near Beck Road.
Right, she
was
came
on-
to the board once, I think,
Right, and she's been on TV a few times about her issues, so a petition has been filed. There's 14,000 properties in that drainage district, and a hearing would be conducted. Notice would be sent out to all 14,000 property owners to come to a meeting to learn about what they're going to be assessed for the improvements.
It's kind of a spoiler for next week's study session, guys. We just got a little, a little commercial there, so it's going to be fun. Seeing no other board comment, leisure services, Greg, anything fun and exciting coming up real in the future? No, we're always good things coming, but check the theater schedule for those interested.
That's correct.
All right.
Just one comment, the summit looks great.
Oh, the new
yeah.
fitness center? Thank you. Thank you.
Big change, trying to get used to some of the new equipment, but did a good job.
Definitely very pleased with the results. It came out better than anticipated.
That being said, call for a motion to close.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Meeting concluded. Thank you.